Meeting ID password. ಒಂದು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ.
Check test 1 2 alert alert check alert 1 2 alert 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 check test 1 2 alert check alert alert. Okay.
So quickly, like just setting some agenda for the workshop today. What we wanted to do was you guys know about the thread structure broadly and the managerial alignment. The workshop today is where we wanted to get into some bit of solutioning mode, where all of the threads, the management layer kind of starts figuring out how to kind of understand the objectives of their threads and structure their threads. And until now we have been kind of working with a theoretical understanding of this is how we might be doing it, but this is an opportunity where all of us can figure out, okay, how do we rally our threads ahead. So thoda bahut solutioning mode aaj karna hai, and that's the intention of the workshop. The broad agenda is where after this kind of like agenda setting, we'll break out into individual threads, and the management layer of the thread, we have 3 work products in mind. Ek ho gaya is an approximate sense of the objectives of the thread. The suggestion is to not define way too many, but just enough, like maybe it could be 5, it could be 6, whatever that number you're feeling comfortable with, but it sets a reasonably strong direction for the thread. And this is where kind of like the single threaded leader and the management team will sit together and help figure that out. So just build an approximate sense of that. The wordsmithing is not really important here. It can be polished over time, but as long as everybody gets the picture that this is the direction in which the thread should be working on, that would really help. Why that's important is because that can then be very easily communicated to everybody in the thread, and they get a very strong directional sense of how the thread will operate. So we'll break out into individual threads where the management team will define these so-called objectives. And one more crucial thing as part of this solutioning mode is where we wanted to bring out dependencies. And when I say dependencies, I mean you could have product dependencies, you could have system dependencies, you could have people dependencies. Like there are certain sets of people which you might be depending upon. It could be in terms of skill sets, or it could be in terms of cross-thread dependencies also. Okay, hey, like in order for my thread to function very well, I think I'll be heavily collaborating with these threads, and it's worth kind of just calling them out so that everybody is aware about it. So that then we can figure out how to amicably kind of work with that kind of dependencies. So do kind of like put in some effort to flesh out those product dependencies, system dependencies, cross-thread dependencies, skill set dependencies. That will help us build that picture. I think the first breakout before lunch is meant to do broadly these two, because these two in themselves are fairly heavy, defining broadly the objectives and the dependencies. After that, we will again get together because we'll have to build that awareness, right? So where all of us will be presenting what kind of objectives broadly we are defining and what kind of dependencies we have. And then I think that will invite some amount of feedback from the other teams and the functional leaders as well, who are able to gauge this properly. And with that feedback and input, we will go post-lunch into incorporating that feedback into the missions and the dependencies, and defining a skeletal org structure. And I don't think we should be getting into headcount numbers and other things. It's better than in a decoupled way. Let's do it separately. But at the very least, like come up with a skeletal org structure if possible, where sort of like in order to achieve those objectives, how would you want to structure your team broadly, maybe sub-teams if necessary, and kind of like refine that understanding. And maybe after that is then we'll again kind of like get together, discuss some of that, and invite some feedback for the same. So that's the broad agenda, these 3 things: objectives, dependencies. Objectives and dependencies are, I think, the most important ones. Org structure, if possible, we'll get to by the end of the day. If not, we'll have more sessions after. Another important point here is that we want to surface some of the operating model challenges. And I think this is the opportunity where we'll be able to actually figure out, okay, what kind of challenges do you see when you're operating with the thread. So hopefully throughout the day we'll be able to surface those operating challenges and like figure out what kind of solutions we can apply to mitigate them. So it's meant to be a challenge discovery exercise as well. So that's the broad agenda. I hope this is reasonably clear. Yeah, I think the point now is to just break out and get into each thread's solutioning. Everybody has, I'm not sure if this is formally circulated, but I think informally everybody knows what thread they're aligned with. But maybe if you have that Excel sheet, let's share it with all of the people so that that's there. And what I would recommend is कि हर thread एक table पकड़ लो and just sit together and do it. You can do anything the way you want, but just make sure you're all sitting together so you will discuss together. But that's what we would encourage. You wanted to add something with them?
Just wanted to add one thing, that there are couple of
there would be couple of people who would have to support multiple threads. So just budget your time accordingly, right? So I think that's also, please figure it out and give expected timelines कि यार मतलब मैं इस टाइम से इस टाइम के बीच में इस thread में हूँगा और इस टाइम से इस टाइम के बीच में इस thread में हूँगा, so that the discussion can be far more productive. One of the other thing, it would be useful when we do an individual breakout, please circulate your Google Hangout links respectively. Let's create a new Google Hangout link and circulate with virtual participants if there are any, right? So that we discuss this more decently.
मतलब अपने threads के like just create a separate Hangout link so that can be circulated. So if the remote participants, they can also join. And functional leaders also, as Uttam said, you'll have to budget your times across these threads. So just work and figure out how you can understand and give your inputs across these threads. Okay? Good. Maybe let's circulate that if possible. Does anybody not know like clearly like what thread they're aligned with? Okay, Prateek also doesn't know. Maybe do we have that sheet? He's a functional this thing. So no, but. Okay, I think more or less most people have an understanding, so let's kind of like just break out by threads, call them out and then segregate, and जो लोग बच गए हैं, we'll figure out what to do with.
Hello everyone. We've just into reach. Zoom it some more. Chandra, you'll be with the new category.
Yeah, let's write it. Let's take the thing.
This one, new categories. You heard Chandra?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's start with one chain of thought process that is not editing our information. This not just come back from